When you think about baseball in the 2000s, who comes to mind? Barry Bonds, Albert Pujols, the Red Sox finally breaking the curse, right? It was an era of giants, defined by explosive offense and huge personalities. But for every superstar who dominated the headlines, there was another guy quietly putting up incredible numbers without any of the fanfare. They might not have the 500 homers or 3,000 hits that punch a ticket to Cooperstown, but their value was undeniable. This is for the players that make you say, man, he was so much better than people give him credit for. So let's get into it, starting with a hitting machine who played for one of baseball's most forgotten franchises. When you think of the Pittsburgh Pirates at the turn of the millennium, you probably don't. They were a team going nowhere fast, a permanent resident at the bottom of the standings. But for 4 unbelievable seasons, they had one of the most productive offensive players in the entire game, Brian Giles. From 1999 to 2002, Giles was a monster. In that stretch, he hit a combined .309 with a ridiculous .426 on-base percentage and a .604 slugging percentage. Those are MVP numbers, period. His 160 OPS plus meant he was a full 60% better than your average major league hitter. In 2000, he blasted 35 homers and drove in 123 runs, just 8 shy of Paul Waner's team record from way back in 1927. He even accomplished a feat rare in Pirates history, putting up back-to-back seasons with over 30 homers and 100 RBIs. Giles wasn't just a slugger. He was an on-base artist. He had an incredible eye, drawing over 100 walks in 3 straight seasons. In 2002, he walked a mind-boggling 135 times, a number that was second only to the unpitchable Barry Bonds. Over that 4-year peak, his FWAR was a massive 25.4, confirming he was one of the most valuable players in the sport, and yet he never cracked the top 10 in MVP voting. So why is he forgotten? Simple. He played for the Pirates. Those teams were awful, never even sniffing a winning record. His greatness was buried on the back page of the sports section. He was a solo act in a city that wasn't getting any national attention. After a trade to the Padres, he kept being a great player, but that peak in Pittsburgh was the stuff of legends, even if almost nobody was watching. Next up is the classic definition of a late bloomer. This guy didn't become a full-time starter until he was 31, but once he got his shot, he turned into one of the most consistent and versatile players in the American League. Let's talk about Melvin Mora. Mora spent his early career as a utility guy, bouncing around the field for the Mets and Orioles. But in 2004, at age 32, the Orioles finally gave him the everyday third base job, and he just exploded. That season, Mora hit .319 and led the entire American League with a .419 on-base percentage, finishing second in the AL batting race only to Ichiro Suzuki. Think about that. In an era loaded with big-name hitters, Melvin Mora was the toughest out in the American League. He also hit 27 homers, drove in 104 runs, and scored 111 times, all career highs. He won the Silver Slugger as the league's best offensive third baseman and put up a fantastic 5.6 WAR. And this wasn't a one-off. From 2002 to 2005, Mora quietly posted 4 straight seasons with a WAR of 4 or higher, the mark of a truly high-quality player. So why isn't he a bigger name? Like Brian Giles, Mora was a star on a team going nowhere. The 2000s Orioles were the picture of mediocrity. His quiet, professional style didn't make for splashy headlines, and his value came from his versatility. But for that brilliant stretch in the mid-2000s, Melvin Mora wasn't just a good player on a bad team. He was one of the elite hitters in baseball, hiding in plain sight. In an era of overpowering giants like Randy Johnson and Roger Clemens, it was easy to miss the 5'10" righty from Mississippi who was quietly dicing up the National League. But for a solid decade, Roy Oswalt was the definition of an ace for the Houston Astros. Drafted in the 23rd round, Oswalt was never supposed to be a star. But he burst onto the scene in 2001, going 14-3 with a 2.73 ERA and finishing second in the Rookie of the Year vote to some guy named Albert Pujols. That was just the start. Between 2001 and 2010, Oswalt was an absolute workhorse, racking up 143 wins to become one of the winningest pitchers in Astros history. He finished in the top 5 of the Cy Young voting 5 different times, which shows you how much respect he had from people who watched him pitch. What made him so good? He was a bulldog competitor with a sneaky fast fastball in the mid-90s and a knee-buckling curveball. In 2004, he was the only pitcher in the NL to win 20 games. He did it again in 2005 and was named NLCS MVP, carrying the Astros to their first ever World Series. Then in 2006, he led the entire league with a 2.98 ERA. So why is he on this list? Because despite that resume, he's often an afterthought when people talk about the best pitchers of that time. He was overshadowed by 2 players on his own team in 2005. Roger Clemens and Andy Pettitte got all the attention. He never won that elusive Cy Young award. And he played in Houston, a market that didn't always get the national spotlight. But the stats don't lie. For a decade, he was among the league leaders in wins, ERA, and WAR. Roy Oswalt wasn't just an ace. He was one of the most dominant pitchers of his generation. Our next player was a defensive magician who could rake. He was a superstar hiding in plain sight for so long that the baseball world finally caught up, sending him to the Hall of Fame in 2023. But for most of his career, especially in the 2000s, Scott Rolen was the definition of underrated. Rolen was probably the best defensive third baseman of his era, a human highlight reel at the hot corner who won 8 Gold Gloves. But calling him a defensive specialist does a massive disservice to what he did with a bat in his hands. For the 2000s, he hit .285 with a robust .865 OPS, elite numbers for any player, let alone a Gold Glove defender at a brutal position. He's one of a very small handful of players in history with at least 2,000 hits, 300 home runs, and 500 doubles. His peak with the St. Louis Cardinals was incredible, playing alongside Albert Pujols and Jim Edmonds. Rolen was a vital piece of one of the decade's best teams. He was a 7-time All-Star and a key part of the Cardinals' 2006 World Series title, hitting a team-best .421 in the series. So how could a Hall of Famer be underrated? For years, the public perception just didn't match the stats. He played in the shadow of other third basemen like Chipper Jones. Nagging injuries often kept him from reaching even higher statistical totals. His Hall of Fame journey says it all. He got just 10.2% of the vote his first year on the ballot, the lowest ever for a guy who eventually got in. It took years of advocacy from writers and fans for his quiet all-around brilliance to finally get the respect it deserved. Scott Rolen is the ultimate proof that sometimes legends are right in front of us the whole time. From the lonely outfields of Pittsburgh to the Dome in Houston, the 2000s were full of these hidden gems. Even if the national spotlight rarely found them, they're a great reminder that a legacy in baseball is about more than just Hall of Fame plaques. It's about the players who made bad teams worth watching, who were the glue for contending teams, and who for a brilliant stretch of time were simply among the best in the world at what they did. So who's your pick for the most underrated player of the 2000s? Did we miss anybody? Let us know down in the comments. Subscribe for more baseball stats, stories, and fun facts.